Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for everybody who watched my video last week and liked and subscribed. I think we're up in the 40s now in the world of subscribers. But yeah, so I hope everyone has had a lovely week. So this video is a little bit later than last week. Yeah, the week just kind of got a bit busy and I just didn't get a chance to film. So I'm gonna get this filmed today and popped up for you. So what I'm going to be going through today, I'm going to show you how I make my protein carrot cake, which is absolutely unbelievable. So yeah, I'm looking forward to making that. I'm going to take you through all the steps of how I make that and what I use it for. And I'm just going to talk you through why I started competing, what actually led me to competing, what my first show was like, and that whole experience. So I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so I am going to show you how I make my carrot cake. So I'm going to be using 75 grams of oats for this recipe. So if I'm on a high carb day, I literally make, like, one of my meals will be 50 grams of carbs. So I need 75 grams of carbs for that whole meal. So if I'm on a high carb day, I will make this and literally eat the whole thing, like one big giant cake for myself. And so if you were making like less, let's say you only want 30 grams for that meal, 30 grams of carbs for that meal, you're going to use maybe 40 grams of porridge for it. You can either reduce it down or just make a batch and kind of cut it up and have it as you will. But I'm going to show you, it just makes a better cake if you use more. You kind of get a bit more bulk and then you can slice it and stuff. So I'm going to show you here. Okay, so the first things that you're gonna need, the first thing that you're gonna do is actually make the topping. So you know when, sorry, I'm gonna come down here. You know when you are kind of having carrot cake and it has that nice stuff on top, I don't know what it is. I tried to recreate that. So I got these, I'm gonna show you here. This is what you're gonna need for the topping. So just a little bit of yogurt. So I like this one, the Liberté is a nice one, but whatever kind of Greek or 0% yogurt. And then this stuff, you don't need it, but this does make it better. It makes it more kind of sticky. This stuff here, I don't actually know how to pronounce it. It's Xanthan, that gum stuff. And that basically is like a binder. So you're gonna use that, and I got this. So these are from Prozis. I'm ordering a lot of stuff from Prozis lately instead of my protein. They're actually really good. So these are yummy drops, and this is in marzipan flavor. So you're literally, we don't need too much of this. A little goes a long way. It's literally just to give the topping a little something extra. So, but you want to, gonna go now and pop that in the fridge. Okay, so for your carrot cake, I've already weighed it out. I have 100 grams of oats in there, and then 1 grated carrot. I also got some kitchen roll and just kind of squeezed the excess juice out of the carrot. Like, you don't need it really dry, but if the carrot's really wet, it kind of makes the mix a bit too wet. So just give it a good squeeze and get all the juice out of it. So literally, you're going to use, your carrot, baking powder, egg whites, and some protein powder. Again, I love the salted caramel. When you're baking, it just kind of makes things taste a little bit more bakey, if you know what I mean. And then you're gonna pop it in a baking tray. Now I actually I had to like makeshift my baking tray because I want it smaller so it's thicker, but this tray is really long, so I'm only using half of it. I just have some little cupcake things stuffed in there. I have to improvise sometimes. And then you are gonna pop that in the oven and bake that at, I put it in at 200 for like 15-20 minutes. You just have to kind of keep an eye on it. Just to show you the carrot cake, I just cut it and like, that's pretty attractive, I think. Oh my god, yeah, there it is. So that is the carrot cake. So yeah, I'm gonna get started now and just crack on with how I started competing, and more so why I started competing. And the reason that I'm kind of going to share this is just, I just think that I just want to get across to people that it's okay to do the things that you want to do. It's okay to try and change your life basically if you're not happy and you know you want to go down a different path to the path that everybody thinks that you should do, or the path that you know you're kind of on and you want to change. So I'm going to take you back to 2011. So what was I? I think I was 22 or 23, and I was still living in England at the time. So basically, for those of you who don't know me, I grew up in Ireland until I was 12 years old, and then my mum moved, me and my sisters, we moved to England, and I basically did all of secondary school in Swindon in England, and I lived there until I actually moved back to Dublin then myself when I was 23. And my dad was always here, so I ended up actually moving back to my dad and got a job here, and then the sort of rest of that's history. But it was in the sort of the 2011 and this was through, by the way, this was nobody else's fault, this was just a position that I was in. But I was just in a position in my life where I was really, really unhappy. Like there was no particular reason for it. Like there was nothing particularly wrong, but I just wasn't happy in how my life was going. I was, you know, when you're kind of at that stage, like I was obviously still working in the fitness industry there, but I don't know, you know, when you just want something more, you feel like where you are isn't right, what you're doing with yourself isn't right. I just was very, very, very deeply unhappy. And it was actually a client of mine I had a small studio with another trainer at the time, and it was a client, and she had been sick, and she ordered, like she was sick for months, so she ordered all these Oxygen magazines from the States. So Oxygen is basically, it's like a women's fitness magazine in the States. And she brought me in like a big stack of them. She's like, oh, when I was sick in hospital, you know, I subscribed to this American thing. I'm sure you can probably get Oxygen everywhere now, I don't know, but she brought me in all these magazines anyway. This just kind of shows you the power of a picture, because I looked on the cover, and on the cover of this women's fitness magazine was a picture of Natalie Mello. And Natalie Mello later went on to become, she was one of the first Miss Olympias. She was one of the first bikini athletes. And she's still incredible now. I follow her now. I follow everything she does. She's unbelievable. But it was an image of her. It was a picture of her. And I saw her on the front of this magazine, and I was like, who is she? Because, you know, she was in such good shape, but she wasn't overly muscular. She was just a picture. She looked so, I know it's a picture, it's for a magazine, but I was like, she looks so happy, she looks so amazing. And I was like, I want to be like that. I didn't even know what that was, but I just saw that, and I just saw, I don't know what it was, but I Googled her then, and I was like, hang on a second. And I was like, she's a bikini, she's a bodybuilder, but she's a small one. And I was like, what? Because nobody at the time, like I think bikini only came in 2010. So it was still this, it was literally just on the bodybuilding scene really. So no one had really heard of it. I hadn't heard of it. I thought that bodybuilding was just the big huge men and the big huge women, and that's what it was. So when I saw her and I researched, I went, hold on a second. And I was like, you know, I could do that. I just, in that moment, I don't know what it was. When I realised what bikini was, I realised that I could be like a bodybuilder, all these things. And I just thought, that's what I'm gonna do. And that was sort of middle 2011. I didn't start it straight away. But I was always researching it and looking. And by the way, at the time there was no Instagram. So now I think maybe it did Instagram come in 2011. I don't know when Instagram came. I didn't have it at the time anyway. But it wasn't what it is now. Like you wouldn't go on Instagram and see those kind of things. It wasn't a case that I saw, you know, something on social media. I literally just saw this image of this person and I researched. And that changed my entire life. That changed the path of my life. So I basically then, in the months that followed, I ended up just packing my bags and moving back to Ireland, which at the time, like obviously I was from here originally, but my whole life was obviously in England. All my friends, my mum, my sisters, all my immediate family other than my dad was in England. And I hadn't, you know, when you live in a country when you're a kid, it's very different. I didn't actually know what life was like in Ireland. When I moved here, I was effectively starting from scratch. And at the time, you know, I was just, I don't know, I knew I just wanted something different. I needed a change. I needed to get out of the environment that I was in. I wasn't happy with the, you know, with the person I was in business with at the time. I just wanted a change, and I knew that competing was in there somewhere. I knew that was something that I was going to do, but just in terms of my life, I literally decided one day, I was like, I'm just going to move. And I went online and I looked for jobs in Ireland, and then I got a few interviews, and I literally flew over on the plane, did like 3 or 4 interviews in one day. I was offered a job in Westwood doing sales actually, because I kind of thought I can't come over here and personal train straight away because, you know, nobody here knew me. I hadn't built up a reputation. I had none of that. So I was like, look, I've done sales, membership sales before. So I was like, look, I'll just go in and just, you know, get settled. And that's what I did. I think I went for the interview, I was offered the job. I flew back home. I filled up my Vauxhall Tigra with all my stuff. I had like a 1998 Vauxhall Tigra, and I'd duct tape the exhaust on because it was falling off. I was so broke at the time. And I just drove over. I came over on the boat in my little beat up car and started my new job. And I moved in with my dad for a while. And that was it. And then I think that was in the October 2011. And then I think by like the November time, I remember I was like, okay, I was kind of getting settled in work, and I was like, okay, I'm going to compete. And now again, for those of you who don't know me, my dad competed. My dad was an incredible bodybuilder. I say was, like the chaps, he's in his 50s and he's still in better shape than like most lads in their 20s. Like he still basically lives the lifestyle completely. But when he competed, I believe that was the late 80s, early 90s, so he was a national champ and stuff. So I was like, how? But what a lot of people ask me, they're like, oh, do you compete because your dad did? I never actually remember even acknowledging that. It was really weird that I didn't think, oh, my dad did it, so I'm going to do it. Not that, like, I mean, geez, he's an inspiration to me, absolutely, but it wasn't, I didn't do it because of that. It was, you know, for all the other things I've mentioned, and then I kind of thought, right, I'm going to do it. So I'm in the kitchen with my dad one day, and I was like, oh, Dad, I'm gonna compete. And he was looking at me like, what are you talking about? Because again, he didn't know about bikini. Nobody really at the time knew about bikini. I was like, oh, well, there's this new category. And I explained the whole thing to him, and he was like, okay. And he was trying to not talk me out of it, but he was like, you know, you need to give yourself time. Because I had been training. Obviously I've worked in the fitness industry since I was 17, so I had been training. And I think at the time, just before I moved back, I was doing a bit of powerlifting, not anything major. But I had built up a good base of muscle, but I still had all this, like, you know, it was quite soft. And he was kind of like, you know, wait. And I said, you know, no, I'm not going to wait. I found a show, I researched, and I kind of thought, you know, with the IFBB, it's RIBBF in Ireland, it was UKBFF in the UK. Bikini wasn't in Ireland yet at that time. And I kind of looked and I was like, look, I don't want to step on like a big official stage for my first show. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't if you're thinking about competing, but just where I was at the time, because, you know, there was no coaches around. I couldn't find anybody to guide me. I didn't know how all the federations linked together. Obviously now I know that most of them are completely separate, but I didn't know, you know, how everything linked. I didn't really know where I would fit in. And there was very little information at the time in terms of help, so I really had to figure everything out on my own. So I found the Miami Pro Show, which was my very first show, and that wasn't an official federation. I don't actually know where they are now, how they fit into things now. I know that I think they've linked to things, but it wasn't an official federation like the IFBB or the NPC. It was just a kind of standalone show, and I thought, you know what, this is the show that I'm going to do. So I had to do all of it myself. There was no coach. You know, my dad helped me. My dad definitely advised me on certain things, but he didn't coach me, because even he was kind of like, well, you know, no one had heard of bikini before. Like, what do you do? How small are you supposed to get? Nobody knew. So he said, you know, you're going to have to figure this out yourself as well. So I was really kind of literally doing that, figuring it out myself. And I found this, actually I'm going to show you this because this is so cute. I hope this comes up the wrong way. This is what I used to guide me through my first prep. The Frank Zane training manual. I think this was made in the 80s or 70s or something. And now it's dead. Like, listen, Frank Zane, for those of you who don't know, Frank Zane is a bodybuilding legend. In my opinion, still one of the best bodybuilders in the world. And this was back in his heyday. So I literally went through this manual, and like, obviously he's a chap 10 times my size. So I was like, oh, well, he's eating X amount of carbs. I'm like 3 times smaller than him, so I'll have 3 times less. I literally I winged the whole thing. And I just kind of got my dad to help me out with kind of cardio protocols and stuff like that. But again, it's like, I had no idea what I was doing. And like, I didn't know, like, even, okay, today, like, I've made carrot cake. I didn't know that you could do that. I thought you weren't even allowed to have protein powder. I thought you weren't allowed to have Diet Coke or anything. So, I mean, I literally, for that prep, all I ate was white fish, green beans, egg whites. Oh, I don't even think I had chicken. Like, I literally just, and rice and porridge oats, that was it. I was drinking raw eggs because I thought I saw that on Rocky. I was like, yeah, I'll drink raw. So in the morning I'd drink raw egg whites and eat a bowl of porridge. And that's what I thought. I was in so much pain. Like, so much pain, because I just didn't have any relief. And I didn't have cheat meals. I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know anything. So I had no flavour whatsoever. I do not, when I look back now, when I think how, you know, how I had nobody else involved really. I didn't know any of the competitors. I just moved to Ireland, so all the friends I have in the bodybuilding industry here, I didn't have then. And like, I had my dad, and my dad, you know, back in my dad's day, they were pretty old school. So, you know, my dad was like, Jesus, no, you can't have, you know, he was really, you can't have that. This is what we did back then. We kept it so clean and plain. So I was just in horrific pain for 12 weeks, gagging on white fish. And you know, I got the condition. I'm going to try to find a photo. I'll pop a photo in here for you. Like, how I came in, it was an incredible transformation for where I had started for the time. I did a lot with my body. considering everything for the time, and the shape that I brought was what they were actually looking for in bikini at that time. Like now, bikini is completely different to what it was then. But I mean, I went across. I actually then eventually I met a girl, and she sorry, I say I had nobody. There was a girl I met in Westwood, and she was like, I'll compete with you. She'd competed before. She's in a different class. She's in a bigger class. And I kind of, but she was a vegan, so on diet wise, like we weren't really on the same page. But you know, the two of us just went over. I remember carrying these bags through London. We got lost in the middle of London, showed up at the competition, and it was the most incredible thing I have ever experienced in my life. Even though it was a low-key show, I know it wasn't a federation, but I stepped on stage. I think there was 15 in my class. I had no idea what was going on. Like backstage, all the girls they'd all competed a few times, you know, they all knew each other, and I just had no idea what was going on, and I came third. And to come home from that with a trophy at that time, man, oh my God, it was just the most unbelievable feeling. It was the most unbelievable thing that I've ever felt. It was incredible. And being up on the stage, the whole thing was incredible. I just can't, it was amazing. That again changed my life. And I was like, that's it, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. And I haven't stopped since, really. My second show, I did another Miami Pro after that again, just to see where I was. That wasn't so great. And no, I came fourth at that, but I had a terrible rebound. I will do another video on rebounds and diets and all of that. But I had a terrible rebound. I didn't come in as lean, but I still came fourth. It was good, but it was after that then that I decided I was going to go into the RIBBF. At the time, that was the road to getting your IFBB Pro card, and you know, the process to get to the Olympia, which is, in that first conversation with my dad, I was like, I'm going to bodybuild and I'm going to be Miss Olympia one day. And he's looking at me and my tiny little no muscle body going, what are you talking about? So I was like, I just work my way back, it's easy. It'll take me like 10 years. That's nearly 10 years, by the way, so it is 10 years. I'm not counting 2020. So it's nearly 10 years. So yeah, that's how my first kind of show went. I'll talk about the other ones maybe another time. I've had so many amazing experiences, but it was after those then that I went to the RIBBF and then worked my way up there, and then eventually got my pro card, which I've spoken about. So, but that's where I started. And the reason that I just wanted to share this today, I just want you to know a little bit more about me and sort of how it all started, but that, you know, at that time, like I said, I was broke. I did not know where I was going, what I was doing with myself. I had the goddamn exhaust duct taped onto my car, for Christ's sake. I just decided, and I didn't know exactly how, but I decided I was going to change my life. And that's what I did. So I'm not saying my life isn't perfect now by any means, but I don't have that feeling of being lost and not knowing where I'm going. And I'm not saying that you should compete, but if you can, you know, sorry, competing is not going to be for like 99.9% of people. Definitely not. But if you are in it. Yeah, so basically what I'm trying to say is, if you are unhappy, or, you know, you just don't feel like you're on the right path, like, don't be afraid to just take a chance and make a change, because I'm so thankful that I made that decision at such a young age to just make a move to a different country and just change things up and follow what I felt was right for me. And I will say again, like, it's probably not going to be bodybuilding for you. That gives you something extra. And you know, I'm lucky. I've an amazing family, I have an amazing husband, I have amazing friends and all of that. But if, you know, all of those things are much more important than bodybuilding, but it just gives me something extra and something unbelievable, that's mine, that I absolutely love. I genuinely, I'm grateful every day that I found it. I found something that I love so much and that just brings so much more to my life. So yeah, that's it. That's my little mini story on how I got started. So I'm gonna do, I think I'll do my next few videos. I have a few, I think somebody had asked actually, which I mentioned earlier, about sort of post-show binge eating and issues that people have when they compete. I think I'll talk about that possibly on the next video or two. But as I said before, if you have anything you would like me to talk about, anything additional that I can make for you and show you, please let me know. I will be happy to make videos on anything, or if there's anything else you want to know about me, any other experiences I've had with competing or otherwise, please ask away. So I look forward to seeing you next week. Please, if you like the video, please let me know that you like it, so I know that you're liking what I'm talking about, and I will see you next week.